Namaste, Deviya Sadhno, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Like always, is my highly skilled, trained professional host, Mr. Parth. And today we have a really special guest all the way from Brazil. We have Miss Ana Clara. She's a singer-songwriter, and we're really glad to be doing this with her. Anna, how's it going? How are you?
Really well. Thank you. I'm very well. How are you guys?
All good, all good. We are really glad to be doing this. What is the time in Brazil right now? Is it like the afternoon or something? How's it?
It is. It is. It is. It's 10 to 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay. And what's the weather like in Brazil right now?
The weather's nice. Well, I'm in Brasilia, so I'm in the capital. So we have two seasons essentially. It's either raining or we're in drought. So right now it's the rainy season. I love it. And so we have afternoon monsoonal rains. So it's really nice. So it's a bit wet.
Right. I think that's a lot like UK, where it tends to rain a lot. Like, so Anna, tell me, how did you start as a musician? I'm really interested to know, because when we were researching you, we got to know that you were born in Melbourne, if I'm not wrong, in Australia.
Yeah.
And then I think you spent a bit of time in London, and now you're in Brazil, right? So that's like two different parts of the world. So musically and artistically, how is all of that been to you? Like, how have you amassed all the experiences that all these different places have brought to you, and how have they contributed to you as a musician? Please tell us about that.
Sure. So you're right. I was born in Australia, and my mom's Australian, and very, very Australian.
All right. What's up, mate?
Yeah. So I was born there, and then when I was about just finished university, I was in university when I went on a trip. I was lucky to go on a trip around the world, and I went to the UK, and I really didn't want to go to the UK. I thought it was so, I don't know, it's just another thing that Australians tend to do, is to just go to the UK and stay there. And I thought, oh, it's so cliche. Right. But I went, and I fell so madly in love with it. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful place. And I'm like, I don't want to leave. I want to stay. so I went back to Australia for a while.
What was really different about UK that really appealed to you? And I mean, what's against the expectations that you had pertaining to UK? What was it like? Like the culture, like the weather? What was it like?
Yeah, it was the culture. And I mean, I'm from a very, very multicultural family. I mean, every single person is from a different place, and so many languages and cuisines, and all the good things about having about multiculturalism. And when I got to the UK, I had this external vision from the Brits that live in Australia. I suppose that was my reference point more than anything, of having not very flavorsome food, and kind of having a bit of a negative mindset, and the weather's always gloomy. I think, why would I leave Australia? Melbourne is a cultural melting pot. Anything you want, you can get in terms of food and cultural experiences. But then when I got to the UK, I thought, oh, this is just so much more intense. There's so many cultures. There's so much, and all the amazing aspects of culture, the art, the history, the language, the food. I always come back to food. And I just loved it, and I met so many wonderful, not just English, but British people. But I suppose British people in the umbrella of what the UK is. I mean, I was in London, so I know that's not a full dynamic of the entire island. But I just loved it. I had so many great experiences, and I got to see a lot of musicians. So that is the tough thing in Australia, as it is so remote. And you're in Australia, it's of course you can leave, but it's a lot harder, it's a lot longer, it's more expensive, to leave.
Absolutely.
Given the distance. And being in the UK, I was off to all over Europe and all over the UK, and there's an artist that I love that's playing, and they're playing in Glasgow. Great, let's go to Glasgow for the weekend. There's stuff like that.
You could just take a bus. You could just take a bus. I mean,
I think. Yeah, so even if I was living in Melbourne, if there was someone, Sydney maybe, but I don't think that their mindset would have been the same to have actually left Melbourne, because probably the artist would have played in Melbourne as well. But if someone was going just to Perth, I wouldn't have thought, oh, then I'll go to Perth. That wouldn't have been my first thought. So I think it changed my mindset and a lot, and opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I just got to really grow up in that environment. So it was really nice.
Yeah, I think London does that to you. I was in London for a year, and I wasn't writing before that. I was just too much into my job. So I went there for the job, and then stayed there a bit, and looked around the place. And when I came back to India and I started writing songs, I don't know if that is what London does to you, but London gives you a
Wow.
lot of
Yeah, you
perspective,
went
right?
there for the money, came back with the art.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
That's great.
I mean
That's great.
that, and London is a very multicultural place. You know, I mean, you'll find a lot of different type of people living there and living there together. I don't know how, but I mean, it's the only other place than India that I've seen that a lot of people with different type of cultures living together without even thinking about it.
That is really interesting, isn't it? Because I think the same. I know that, I mean, Australia is a very peaceful country. Using that as a reference, I mean, Brazilian and living here, Brazil is the most, in my opinion, Brazil is the most religiously and culturally calm place you will see. You just don't see issues surrounded, around religion here. It's beautiful. Like I have mine, you have yours. Fantastic, great. Let's all celebrate that faith and move on. It's not even a question. It's a beautiful thing. Whereas in Australia, I think it's a bit more, you just don't talk about these things rather than there's not an issue. Do you know what I mean? And I found that was something really interesting in the UK as well. That so many cultures, and for the most, I mean, of course, you see different things happening, but it wasn't as prevalent as I would have expected, because there are so many people.
Right. What were the dominant cultures in UK? Like you said, that it's multicultural. What was the larger proportion or larger majority of cultures which really dominated the whole cultural strata of UK, according to you? Was it Indians as well, or like what was it like?
I think that it was just pretty mixed. Where it depends where you live as well. Pat, where were you?
So I was living near Heathrow, somewhere around the airport, because that's where I was working. So it had mostly a lot of Indians basically, but
Yeah.
because of that, again, because of where they work basically. So yeah, there were a lot of Indians that at that part of town, but I mean there are other people living. There are people from Poland as well living around,
Yeah.
working there, and I think every culture is there in the same city.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
experienced.
That's what I had. I think my closest friends were actually Indian and Jamaican. Yeah, they were my like super big close friends, and so I learned a lot about Indian food and culture through my friend Nina and her
What do you
family.
know? What do you know? We want to know
Oh
what
no,
you know about
I shouldn't have said anything.
we're not going to judge you, please. Yeah.
No, I think it's, for me, it's the food. I mean, oh my gosh, I got so fat going to her house, and her family. It's kind of like Brazil as well. We're very focused on making sure no one is hungry. You've got to eat. Have you eaten? Oh, you haven't eaten enough. I've eaten enough for 4 people. I have certainly eaten enough food, and it's just constantly
Basically Indian
feeding.
grandmom. They're basically Indian grandmoms. I mean, that's basically the case. If you go to your hometown and like if you spend time with your grandmother, she's going to ensure you eat a meal for 4 people. It's something like that. Right. Right. I mean, that's great. That's really passionate. There's a lot of warmth in that. So that's wonderful actually. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
coming back to that, what's your favorite Indian dish? Please tell us.
Oh, I feel, oh God, I feel like I'm going to pronounce everything wrong and embarrass myself. So I apologize in advance. I love, did we say, I've seen it written differently in Brazil and in the UK. Pakora, is it pakora?
Pakora, right?
Pakora,
Yes.
pakora, yeah.
Yeah. You're bang on.
Yum. And
You pronounce it better than most Indians, so don't worry.
Yeah.
yeah. I love pakora, and I love I love lamb. So any kind of curry that's got, and you can serve me curry any which way, and I will be a happy girl. I love naan bread. I mean, it's just such. I think that's Indian food is such comfort food. It's so warm. I love spicy food, and I didn't eat spicy food before. And I developed my friendship with Nina, and she said, "Don't worry, it's not spicy. It's not spicy. No, it's not spicy for you."
Spice tolerance differs from people to people, but Indians are genetically very tolerant towards spice, most of them. So I mean, what might be really spicy to you might be just like what it doesn't matter, but absolutely, that's wonderful. Sorry, please continue.
No, I have a question, because I mean, for me, that I feel like this is going to be such a foreigner kind of answer a question, but I love butter chicken. But as an Indian, would you actually eat butter chicken? Is that really?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I'm a vegetarian though, but I
mean.
Yeah, but I get the hype. It's absolutely a prevalent thing here, and people love it. So it's universal. The love for butter chicken is universal. It crosses boundaries. So don't worry about that. It unifies the world.
It does. It's so good. It's so good. And then I mean, things that you grow up thinking, you hear of tandoori chicken, you don't realize that the tandoor is actually the apparatus to cook the chicken. It's not the spices. I think you know, I learned so much, so many things you just, you see, you don't really understand. But, and that's, you said you're vegetarian. I think for me, there's no way to do vegetarianism. There's a better way to do vegetarianism than to do it with Indian cuisine. It's just so tasty. It's so tasty.
So the thing is actually with Indian cuisine, I mean, the things that people know about Indian cuisine are very, very. It's just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest.
Right.
So
exactly.
I mean, that's the struggle every Indian has. If they are vegetarian and they go outside India, they struggle with the food, because in India you'll find a lot of vegetarian things to eat, and I mean, as good as butter chicken, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the cottage cheese here, which is paneer. We call it paneer here. So we have butter paneer. We have butter paneer. Paneer is you should have that as well. And you really won't miss butter chicken for the greater extent.
Wow. I love that.
Right.
Brilliant.
Right. Yeah. So the thing about India is that there's so many cultures. Like the fact is that we ourselves are alienated to so much.
Right. Yeah.
And whatever you guys or anybody gets to eat, largely us also in the places that we go, is usually the popularized thing. But if you go to different spots of the country, if you go, there's a lot of local subtext to the food. There's a lot of local context, and it could have to do a lot with what the crop, what the farmers produce out there, what the culture has to do, and what are the weather conditions. Like if you go to like a hilly place, you will have a different kind of cuisine, which is a little more spicy because people are finding it a little difficult. But I feel the best part about India is that we have a lot of variety in terms of vegetarian food. So people really miss being vegetarian, even though like somebody like me could struggle on certain days thinking that the gym freaks find it really difficult because you really need your protein and all of that. But it's that. But yeah, I would really suggest you going and finding some good Indian spot and have the vegetarian food. If they make it authentically, nothing like it. I'm telling you, you won't miss the foreign food one bit. It's really good.
I'm not actually. I've got another question. There's a little sauce that comes from. We have 3 Indian restaurants now in Brasilia. This is like a big deal. And there's a little sauce that comes with. I don't remember having it in the UK, and I think when I'm in Australia, I don't usually have, which I should have Indian in Australia because there's so many Indian people in Australia. The food's probably pretty authentic.
Absolutely. You're everywhere. So
it's good. It's great. I love it. But this sauce, it's green, and it's the most refreshing thing you'll have.
That has.
What's it called? Mint.
Chutney.
In general terms, people name it green chutney. So it's like it's green, so it's green chutney. But it has mint. That's what you would have felt refreshing.
Nice.
It has mint. It has coriander. It has chilies. Yeah. It's a good mix of.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's a staple of the diet here. Like if you're having a snack or something, it's a must.
But, got to.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a life changer, that one. I love it. Like that, and we always order extra pots of spice from the Indian restaurant, and we put it in all our food.
Right. That's the case with us with Szechuan. So Szechuan is the Chinese sauce that they make is really Indian people are very fond of Chinese food.
Really?
We have our own iteration of Chinese food, which is Desi Chinese, which is not which is not your traditional Mandarin food that you have, which is served with chopsticks. We have like our own versions of noodles, which is really like how do you say?
Spiced up, basically. Yeah.
It's like if you have that, then you don't eat something for 2 days. It's that. It's pretty So we tend to get into it, and then so we have like our own Manchurian. We have like veg Manchurian also. I don't know whether that's a thing abroad. And then so it's really so I mean like you said, chutney. We are really fond of the Szechuan, the spicy sauce that comes with Chinese food. So I mean,
nice.
Yeah, but I think hot sauces are also really picking up in India. I mean, all the kind of hot sauces you guys have, and your mustard and your pickles. So all of those things are really, I think, a part of. I think India has sort of embraced like a local, global sort of thing in terms of food, where it's not only one cuisine anymore. Because
and on top of it, what we are doing as Indians is we are taking every cuisine and just remaking it as
absolutely.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, we don't have a lot of spice in Brazilian cuisine. We have a lot of salt, and it's really flavorsome, but it's not at all spicy. There are only 1 or 2 dishes that have spice. I mean, they have a lot. It's very, very spicy. But overall, it's just not part of our culture. And it's really interesting if you look at the rest of Latin America, then
Right.
you have a lot of cultures with a lot of spice, a lot of jalapeno, and we don't use it. We don't at all. Even here at home, I mean, when we have Indian food or if we make Thai food, I have a lot more spice than the rest because I love it.
Right.
But it's kind of like, oh yeah, because I suppose when you're not used to it, it's hard on your stomach when you're not used to it.
Right.
Right.
You know?
Right. No, I think the fact that there's a lot of globalization in terms of like we have a Taco Bell here and we have a McDonald's here or we have a KFC here. So I think we really are sort of unified. Of course, like McDonald's will also serve their own version of like an Indian sort of burger. We call it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. You should really have the Indian McDonald's. You really love it. I'm not even kidding.
That's amazing.
I missed the Indian McDonald's in London, by the way. I missed
Really?
Yeah, I missed eating from McDonald's in India. That's how good it is.
And
I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say they miss McDonald's under any circumstances. This is brilliant.
Right. They give me Happy Meals also. I don't know whether that's a thing there, but you have.
I think that's there.
Yeah.
I think that's
Happy
good.
Meals.
So yeah, you probably might get some Indian
That little
food
toy.
the next time you come
Oh
to
my gosh. I don't even know if I haven't eaten McDonald's in a long time. But
Right.
that smell, that honestly it's such a unique smell, isn't it? The smell of McDonald's.
Right.
And it does make you hungry.
It does. It does.
Yeah, it's
500
really
meter radius, in a 500-meter radius of a McDonald's, you just feel that.
yeah. It's true.
Always-
That's why I haven't eaten it.
That's the secret of their business. That smell.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
not making any good food.
It's a very
Yeah,
Napo
I think
thing.
you're right. It's got to be because I'm just thinking I haven't been near a McDonald's, which is probably the reason I haven't had McDonald's in such a long time. I haven't had that smell.
Right.
Oh my
Like when you're walking near a McDonald's, you just all of a sudden just start sleepwalking and just get inside a McDonald's because it smells that way.
I'm hungry. Suddenly I'm hungry.
Oh,
Oh my
God.
gosh.
This podcast has turned from a songwriter podcast to
I know. Like food.
No, but that's
But-
completely fine. That's completely fine. What we consume, what we eat, what we are about is what we make art about. So I think.
Yes.
So yeah. We should continue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Totally
So-
agree.
Absolutely. So you tell me what is. So how long have you been in Brazil? Like how long have you been staying there?
So I've been back here for 10, 11 years now. Like this is
Oh, wow.
where
You're-
yeah.
You're
So
Brazilian now. You're like a proper Brazilian now. I think 10, 11 years. 40
Yeah.
years
no, I'm Brazilian Australian. I'm both.
now.
I was
Okay,
just born in Australia.
You're
Yeah.
half-
And this because my mom is Australian, one of my grandmas, she's German, and I just look like them. So
You're pretty chill out for a German, so don't worry about that.
but
Right.
yeah, so I think all those things are going back to your original question. All of those things, like all the different cultural elements of where I've lived and who I've lived with and within my family, and seeing a lot of tolerance and intolerance around different cultures as well. And these things, they stay with you because, I think especially as musicians and artists and songwriters, we feel a lot more than people who are not necessarily in these areas, and you internalize that, and then you express from what you've got inside of you. And I think for me, my style as a songwriter, I'm very much a storyteller of what I've experienced or observed. And so all of my songs have to do with my life and my experiences. And not that I can think of one at the top of my head that's specifically to one particular cultural experience, but that of course that influences everything, because that changes my perspective on everything.
Mhm.
My perspective is from someone that's had all of those experiences. And I think in life, the more culturally diverse you are, I found, the more surrounded by culturally diverse people you are. And so when you come into contact with people that are a little bit less culturally diverse or experienced, and that doesn't have to be your family's from all over the place like mine is. That could be just by watching different films and listening to different music and looking at different art and having interest in food. You don't have that, then it's a totally different perspective. And that's not to say it's right or wrong, it's just an entirely different perspective. And the blocks of those perspectives are really different. And I would say that definitely the way that I've been raised and lived the places I've lived and things I've experienced are really present in my songs and the way that I write.
Right. That's wonderful actually, because I think that you like have a cultural objectivity, because I think you have seen everything. You put yourself in different shoes in terms of like staying in different places, having a culturally diverse family like the one you have. And I think, yeah, that's really interesting, because then you have all these influences, you have all these POVs, point of views on, how things are certain ways. You have all these, I think, these feelings within you. I think every culture has like a feeling to it. Like
Yeah.
there's like a soundscape. Indian music also, we have all these traditional instruments like harmonium, and
Yeah.
that's all you end up growing. So I think your musical the database that you have, or the sort of when you channelize your songwriting through like uh, how, like you said, like storytelling is your medium. I think you are very, I think it already makes you really stand out from everybody else, because what you're doing is can't be replicated, because not everybody can exactly live that same life. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So, how when did you start songwriting? Like, when did you get into music? Was it like a thing that you've always been a part of since childhood, or is it something that you picked up along the way? How's it been
I
like for you?
think I think that I've always loved music since childhood. At home, we always had music on. I think that's
Mhm.
Right,
the first
right.
thing. We always had music on. Um, I mean, when I remember when we were young, my father had a guitar. He didn't play it really much, but it was there, and it was like, oh, let me have a try kind of thing. And then when I
Right.
was about, I must have been about 9 or 8 or 9, I started doing guitar lessons. My
Mm.
Oma, that's Oma is German for grandma. So my Oma, she has a, I think it's an Indian instrument, zither. Is it zither? Zither?
Sitar. Are you talking about the sitar? It's like
Zither.
a
Sitar.
guitar.
Zither. Yeah.
It's like a guitar, right? It's
Yeah.
like a,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So
Right.
my Oma, she has one. I don't know why, and I don't know how. But when we were kids, I can remember getting it out, and it was that thing like you can touch it, but do not. This is sit down.
Possessive about
This
it. Yeah,
is
right.
nobody's gonna break this. So I don't have to ask her where it is. But she's been around for a while. My Oma, she turned 100 last year. So
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah, yep.
Crazy.
She's seen some things. So I'll have to ask her what happened to this stuff. But yeah, and then from there, I just liked singing and dancing, and my sisters and I would always be singing and dancing, and so I did guitar lessons. So I was terrible, absolutely terrible. Not it was just really, really bad, and I tried
I can
hard.
relate
So
with
I
what you're going through, because I'm learning the guitar as of now, and I find it so difficult
ah
to learn fretting and learn strumming, and understanding all the. So I don't know whether you guys know about this, like to understand the chords, like Eddie A, Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie, like EAD, GAB. So
yeah.
just like to explain all of that, it's a lot of information overload. But yeah, I can see personal experience I'm
It's
having.
tough. It's
Yeah.
tough, and trying to think, suddenly you have such an appreciation for like flexibility in your hands. Like I didn't even know that hands could be flexible. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to push one finger down. Like,
Both
I
the
need
tips.
another one.
Yeah, yeah. It's very different. Yeah. Right.
So I did that, and then I think by the time when I was about, I think I was 13, I started to get really sick, and
Okay.
I ended up in the hospital. And it turns out I couldn't find the reason of what was actually causing this illness, and it turns out it was just epilepsy. But
Mm.
it was a long period, a lot of hospital trips, a lot of medicines, and one of the diagnostics was just taking forever, so they put me in hospital for a couple of weeks to just
Mm-hmm.
do observations. And during
Right.
that period, I think it was really when I first started writing, and I just sort of jot things down, and was really embarrassed about the fact that I'd written something that I'm never going to show anyone anything. And then I
Right.
don't know at which point I said, oh, I can write songs, and went
Right.
forward with that. But because I never played an instrument independently, it was hard because I depended on other people to take those songs forward. So I actually started doing something with those songs much, much, much later on. So only really when I got back to Brazil, I found I did like a what do you call it in English? I kind of like I suppose an audition. I called people to audition to be my musicians,
Mhm.
and
Right.
they came, and they were just amazing. Like I would have been happy with someone that could play 4 chords, and they were just so incredible. And so these guys, we play together and we write together until today. This was
Mm-hmm.
like almost a decade. Oh no, probably about 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I mean, they went to music school. They graduated in their instruments. They're proper, bona fide musicians. They're brilliant. And so we write together, and we write really, really well. We wrote Brixton,
Mhm.
my first single from last year, first single that was released.
Right.
We're working on a few others at the moment that hopefully will come out in this year, and then we've got an album we're working on too, which hopefully towards the end of the year will come out. But that whole writing things, and everyone, I think you guys know you have your own writing style, so it's not just about getting people in to put the rest to the song. It's you've got to get
Right.
people that get your perspective. That
Right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
tricky.
Right.
So
So
you
when you were
mentioned,
writing the song, yeah,
yeah,
please, Pavel.
no,
Yeah.
no. You go on. I'll add on.
All right. So what I wanted to know is like when you said that when you started writing songs for the first time, you just wrote down lyrics. So was there some melody attached to it, or were you just writing song lyrics down and just trying to sort of channelize the feelings that you wanted to, or and then you eventually picked up the guitar, or just sort of try to articulate them into like a tune or something of that sort? What was it like for you, or did you like already have like a tune in mind or something for the songs that you were
No, I've always been the same, and it all comes out together. It's the lyrics
Right.
and the melody at the same time. And generally, if I start it, I finish it. And if I don't finish it, it's done. It stays in that state.
Right.
I'm not being one to come back and say, oh, I'll go back to that and I'll finish it later. The inspiration is either there
It's an instantaneous
or it's
project
not.
for you.
Yeah, so that's very much how I operate. I know a lot of songwriters that it's entirely different, and they'll map out sort of almost like a brainstorming, I suppose. Think of a situation and think about things through that. It's more methodological. How do you say in English? I can't remember.
No, that's what it is.
Methodological. I think that I could be adding an extra syllable in there. I'm sorry. Whereas with me, it's I think it's kind of organic is probably the right word to associate with the process. It bubbles up,
Right.
or
Right.
it doesn't.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's how.
That reminds me of the your song Brixton, right? So I was looking at watching the interview that you did for the song, and you mentioned that this was a like 10-15 minutes completed song, right? So just tell us about that. I mean, how did that happen? Because the lyrics, by the way, are so relatable. If anyone has been in London, the chorus is so relatable. Like
Oh,
I was
that makes
listening
me
to it and I was like,
yeah.
man, why didn't I write a song on London? That's the thing that.
Oh, Pat, thank you. That's really kind. That's really sweet. Thank you. But it was one of those things because the same guys that I wrote with, as I mentioned, Bruno and Almi, we were rehearsing as we do in my lounge room or in my old apartment. Now I live in a house, but we wrote that when I was in my apartment, my tiny little apartment. And I don't know, it just came out. And then I said to Bruno, what do you think? And then he just made the whole thing up as like just the start of it, just that it actually began as he was just messing about. He was literally just messing about on the guitar, and then did this hang on a second. And so I wrote it, and then Almi is just ridiculous. It's almost it's obscene how good he is at. You could give him a box and he will make it into the most complex drum that you've ever heard in life. He's just ridiculously good at what he does. So he's come in and suddenly it's sounding like a song. And Bruno said, "Hey, just give me a second. Or what are we going to do here? This is what is in my head. It's what I want." So he just made it up. I don't know how. The three of us, I think the way that we all think musically in a similar way. I think that's what it comes down to.
Right.
Musically,
Right.
we think and speak the same language, and
Absolutely.
they have. And I think that's a very cultural thing as well, because we've all lived abroad. We're all Brazilian to a certain extent, but we have very different backgrounds. I've spent less time than them in Brazil. They've spent less time out of Brazil, but in very different places. So Bruno used to live in Alaska. Who goes and lives in Alaska? And then Almir, he went and studied in Sweden. So these are really different things. So we've all got these very, very unique kind of perspectives, and it just works. We get what the other one's trying to express, or kind of, because it's beyond that. It's one starts and the other's just kind of like, oh, I think I know where we're going here. And we just go along, and then there's a song. And literally within 10-15 minutes, that Brixton was written. It was just written. And I was so happy because as you said, who's been in London, I think, can relate to it. Brixton is a little neighborhood in London, for anyone who's watching doesn't know. And it's just so cool there. It's so cool. It's so unpretentious. I love it there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's just so down to earth, and because there is that side of London where it's a little bit glamorous, and lots of neighborhoods they're famous for being this, that, or the other, and it's a different vibe. And Brixton is not famous for being anywhere pretty, or it's famous for the riots in the 60s. They had a lot of racial issues there, a lot of issues with the police. I mean, it's got a very dark history. But before that, it was a really noble neighborhood. And so those they've got mansion blocks of houses that are all they're oh, how do you say that in English? When the houses are all attached, one stuck on the wall to the other. I can't remember in English how you say that, but it was a big mansion essentially, and they've been divided up into houses, all stuck together, and they're just incredible. It's beautiful, it's beautiful. And there's a lot of people that are coming in and doing up a lot of the area as well. Just some gorgeous places down there. But I just always like the people, and it's super culturally diverse. You can find food for going back to food, sorry.
That's fine. You're planning to make that so this is no longer an indie. This is no longer an indie.
You didn't think this is a food podcast?
Show now, yeah. We're going to wear a chef hat.
Now we are going to change it to taste good.
Taste good. Have to put a warning. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
But it is. I mean, you come out of Brixton Station and you've got a lot of other huge Jamaican culture, and so you come out and you've got the beautiful drums, those deep inverted drums, the Caribbean drums, and that it's so rich and full sounding. And you come out, you're like, oh, it's like a party out here. It's raining and it's gloomy, but you've got this amazing music, and it's just, like I said, I love it. Unpretentious, super chill, lots of music, lots of food.
That's so wonderful. It's so nice that you sort of had, like, I mean, the song might be of 3-4 minutes, but the fact that you have such a vast POV in terms of like architecture, what the people are like you said, it's like down to earth, and then there's music, there's so much culture. This is such a fascinating aspect about art, is that you have so much, and then you can condense it into like a 3 to 4 minute thing, or just depending on how you want to put it together. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And like you said, that I think you're into storytelling, so that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I haven't heard Brixton yet, but now I'm going to hear it first.
Good. I have to check it out.
I'm going to, absolutely. And I hope that I think it's a cheaper way of London tourism. I think
especially now, it's like, what?
Yeah, I think the people, the higher officials of UK are going to be like, listen, you got to stop playing that song. People are not coming anymore. People have started experiencing London. Anyways, the McDonald's and now you're doing this. But yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Speaking of lockdown, what is the state in Brazil right now? Are people, is it better, or like compared to other countries, or what is it like?
For COVID, from what I've got pretty close ties to London. I worked for the British government for a long time when I first came back to Brazil, and yeah, and from they're in lockdown, but I mean proper lockdown. Don't leave your house at all. You've got this time to leave and go for a walk and come back. It's serious. This is the second time I think that they're in lockdown, and it's I want to try not to speak about COVID because I don't want to be offensive to anyone, but I feel like we have these multiple lockdowns because people are not doing what they need to be doing. I know it's not, and it's not a simple task. It's not a simple task, but nobody wants to be in lockdown. It's awful. It's really tough to be stuck inside your house, but we got to deal with it.
Yep. Yeah, I can relate to that because I think everybody has sort of, unless you're from Australia where it's completely normal out there, but but no, absolutely, we completely relate to that because we also have been, I mean, things have eased up a little bit out here for the past few months, but yeah, it was pretty serious, the kind of lockdowns that we had, where it was not even permissible for us to sort of step out of our house, like to even get food for like larger duration of the day. So yeah, it can get really jarring. Yeah, I think initially it was a little bit of fun where you thought like it's like a picnic and all of us are just sort of going to be at home, laze around.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the office and all that.
Yeah, and people also, there was this thing called, I don't know whether it's a thing out there. There's this thing called the Dalgona coffee, which was like a trend in India. So everybody was making the Dalgona coffee, and when they realized this thing is going to last for like another year, they were like, go back to basics. So yeah,
let's go back to butter chicken.
listen to some music because but yeah, that's great. So you tell me, who are your favorite artists? Like, who are the people all around the world? Who are the people that you really like in terms of musicality? It could be other artists as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be musicians.
Okay. Well, there's so many. So I think like from growing up, my favorites since I was a kid till now are definitely Prince and Janet Jackson. And I think that different things, different songs, maybe not Brixton as such, but you can definitely hear influences. And I think the songs that I'll release later this year, you'll hear more of that. But who I listen to a lot at the moment is Emily King. She's from the US, and her voice is just amazing. It's just beautiful. I listen to I love electronic music as well. And I love Big Wild. who does some really, it's just really, what's the word? I don't want to say catchy, but it's, I don't know, it's got depth to it. It's really nice. I really like this stuff.
Right. People usually don't expect that from electronic music, whereas that's
Yeah.
a lot of musicians who are doing that. People just think that it's all dance music and music that you get high to and sort of enjoy to. People sort of think that for techno as well. We had a few techno artists on our podcast, and there was a lot general consensus that techno music is music you get high to and sort of just
Yeah.
there's so much more depth. Absolutely, good that you mentioned that. Absolutely, yeah. So who
Yeah.
who are the other artists you like in terms of EDM?
It's really, yeah, and I like drum and bass as well. And so I'm a bit partial to the Brazilian artists in drum and bass because I love the way they bring in our traditional instruments, and it just, I think it adds another level of feeling to it instead of, I don't know, I think for people that don't listen to drum and bass or haven't, it has kind of an image of being just, it's a really male dominated, it is a really male dominated scene, but, and it's very sort of like an angry sound of just hard beats, you know, and I mean it can be that, but it's also got some lighter beats. I like Pachi and DJ Mark. These are like old school guys, and then some new ones like Vangelis and Alibi. These are really cool artists. And then who else? I found watching a TV series recently. I found two bands who I just love. One's a singer. I think she's British, but I think she's of Indian descent, if I'm not wrong. Her name is Charlotte O.C. Charlotte O.C. But
I've heard her name. What show is it?
The show is called Virgin River. I think it's Canadian, but but her song's in one of the scenes, and it's just such a perfect. Whoever does the sync licensing for this show deserves a pay rise because they have the best songs. The soundtrack's incredible, and the other song is from the same one, and it's a band called Sunny Cleveland. I don't know where they're from, but they have a song called Bring It On Back, and it's that old soul, and you can just hear all the instruments, and I think that's something that I've missed a lot. I think that I like that even in Big Wild, there's a really strong a guitar riff that's quite present, and it's just, it reminds you of how, when you hear real organic instruments, it gives you a very visceral response, you feel it in your skin. And each of these artists that I've mentioned, I think that's what it is about them that I really like. Their key use of instruments in a way that is, it's not just dulled down by a bunch of synths. So not that I have anything against synths, but I think that it can be a bit over-present in a lot of the music that's released at the moment. I think these artists manage that to be stylistically, relevant, but without compromising that beautiful organic sound of instruments. And I really resonate with that.
That's amazing. That's amazing because I really like the fact that you mentioned that they have a guitarist, because I feel that instruments really contribute to the soul of like a song. I genuinely feel that when there's instrumentation involved, I think a lot of EDM artists also use instruments and like voices to like sort of make the beats and make that a part of how they produce stuff. So I think Martin Garrix is also uses a lot of, I don't know whether you're aware of Martin Garrix. He's a very
yeah.
Right. So Martin Garrix is also. India is. We have this there's Tomorrowland abroad. We have this festival called Sunburn. Sunburn is basically our Tomorrowland, and we have all your people, whether it's Dimitri Vegas, like Mike, DJ Snake, or Martin Garrix, or David Guetta, Skrillex. All these people come to India as well. So we have a huge scene, but because of COVID, we're not having all of that. So there's a lot of units. I think Justin Bieber just came and performed a few years back out here in our country, and. And whether it's Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had a very famous show 20 years back. So we are very well connected with like the scene abroad. U2 also came and performed in India, I think, a year and back. So
nice.
Coldplay also came. Coldplay came 3 years back. We are completely in sync with whatever's happening. Majority in terms of whatever is popular. So absolutely. So that's great. That's great. So you tell me, where do you see yourself? Like you started, you just put out 2 singles as far as I'm aware, right now. So are there plans of venturing or scaling into like an album or like an extended playlist, like an EP? What are your plans right now? How do you look at it?
So the plan was to release 2 singles and an album last year, but we all know what happened last year. So that didn't happen.
There was no last year. There was nothing. There was no last year.
It's like a big timeout. So last year was a bit unexpected. So this year I released Height, and Height was just released 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So and that's a duet I wrote with I wrote it and invited another Brazilian artist, Ana Lélia, who's a beautiful singer, has sort of a bossa nova influence to her voice. And so I invited her to come along, and so we did that, and that was unexpected. That was not on the plan, but it was so nice. I really love the song, and her interpretation is beautiful. So I that came out, and then shortly there'll be another one that comes out, which is actually totally different. It's got a real kind of 90s, you know how in the 90s they really drew on the 70s, kind of that kind of feel. And then I've got another album, and I've got 3 albums that I'm recording as well. Sorry, 4 albums that I'm recording. Yeah. So short albums, but albums.
All guns blazing now.
So I've got a lot of stuff coming out. It's just a matter of a bit of time and coordination. I work with one of my producers is in Australia, another is in Berlin, and that's an electronic song. Yeah, and another collaboration with a Brazilian artist, CBG. She wrote the music, and then I wrote the top line. But the producers in Berlin, and then I've got 2 songs that I'm working on. I'm so excited. I hope that they're ready soonish, which are unaffiliated with either albums, but one's it's a mix. It's Portuguese and English, which is fun to do, because most of my stuff that I write is that I record is in English, but it's nice to have some Portuguese stuff as well.
That's so cool. I mean, like you said, that music unifies. So I mean, I think it just boils down to how. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm excited to hear. Part by please continue.
So I mean, you talked about Heart and how you invited Ana Lélia to do a collab with you. So how was that experience? And because I mean, I listened to Heart and I was like, thank you for introducing me to Ana Lélia. So I think I was like, as you mentioned, she has a pretty strong voice, right? So how was it like, working with her, and how was that experience for her?
It was so lovely. We knew each other before. We actually sang in there's a group of 5 of us here in Brasilia, and in 2019 we got together and did a big benefit show for Pink October, and Anna was the organizer of that event, and there was myself and three other women, and the event was really successful. And then a famous composer pianist from Brazil reached out and invited us to sing with him, and then we did a show based on he's the maestro for kind of I don't know how to say, I'll give a reference point, but he's referred to as the king of music in Brazil. And so it's his maestro. And then we did a show of all of Roberto Carlos, that's the king, his songs. And through that, so we'd already worked together and become friends. And when I wrote the song, I wrote it in, when was it, December last year, and I heard it and I thought, I think I love duets, and I think that there's not enough. I think that it's really nice when you can get a few different people in the same. Why not, right? And I thought, I think Anna's voice would be so beautiful, because her voice is sweet and it's gentle, but she has moments of strength as well. She's a beautiful singer. And I think that this bossa tone will communicate the message of the song. And so I said to her, what do you think? And she's like, oh my God, yes. So we had to do it really quickly, but it was a bit stressful, because with COVID, I haven't been going into the studio very much, because I don't feel comfortable. Studios are a really easy place to, in close proximity, everyone's touching the same thing. It's sort of all the what not to do of, health and safety protocols. So I said to her, how are we going to do this? So we actually recorded it individually, and then sort of coached each other, and then we'd meet up and have a Zoom conversation, say, I really like that you did this, or that you did that, what about more of this, what about that? So we did it, but we weren't in the same room, and we actually weren't in the same studio. And then I had to come in and do a little bit more backing, and I went to the studio that she recorded in, which is actually hers. And so it was really strange to record a duet. We've never sung it together. We've only sung our parts. It's crazy, but we've had loads of conversations about it, and about the story, and doing all the media stuff together. But so we're so excited to at some point be able to perform it together. But I'm glad I'll tell her that you loved her voice and her music. She'll be thrilled.
Right. I mean, and it never sounded like there were 2 different I mean, two people in different places singing this. So yeah, kudos to both of you working on that.
There's a lot that went into it, a lot of conversation. I think, I mean, as I said, we're friends, and I think we know each other well enough to know where our minds are and communicate that message. And I mean, she's a really sweet person. She's just a lovely, lovely human being. And so I think empathetically, she could transmit that message as well as I could. And the song was about me and my experience. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
That's so good.
Great.
That's so good. Yeah, that's great. I mean, what I love about music is also that it unifies the people listening also and the people making it also, and then it's sort of like this common thread that just unites everybody and just ties people together in this beautiful this cocoon of sorts. This is such an amazing thing. But yeah, so what is so are you? My question to you is like, are you super into like collaborating, or do you like to be your own like sort of singer songwriter who does her own stuff, or like do you do your stuff to a certain point and then you want to get other people into just polish it in aspects, whether it's producing, mixing, mastering, or instrumentations and all of that. What is your approach towards music like?
I think it's kind of yes to everything. I like to do as much as I can myself, but I think that perspective is everything. So there are different things that so for example, I had the song, the melody, and I'd written the lyric, and then I spoke to our producer, who is a brilliant guitarist, and I think we have a similar process. So he just pulled out the guitar and went brum 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 brum, and I said, how did you do that? How did you just where did you hear this song before? Like, and so his perspective gave a new level of warmth to it, because from my perspective, was really sad. It's a really sad. This inspiration is so sad for this song, but the song itself is sweet and uplifting, and a lot of that is because of the guitar. It doesn't feel sad, and and then people are saying, "Well, why do you have an anatomical height?" So because it's about sickness, it's about death. It's about resilience and friendship and love in the context of two very, very, very sick children. And so that there's that dimension of that there. But sorry, I've gone off track. But I think it's great to bring in lots of different perspectives, and you can build so much more. So if anyone wants to work, reach out. reach out. I love that.
Yeah, that's so great. That's so great. I mean, yeah, people usually, try to stick to their own lane and, try to, mind their own business. But the fact that you look at it with abundance and you look at it with the fact that, let's, come together. But yeah, I think that when there's that collective energy, when there's that synergy to, something that you're making, I think if it's just about, I mean, two people could be radically different, but when they meet they come to a middle ground in terms of a particular vision or a particular point of view, and then they're contributing and collectively making and building that thing, that work of art, or that piece of work. I think it's something which can't be put together in words. I think it's just the piece of work only speaks for itself. I'm asking, are you like into books? Or do you read a lot? Do you read a lot?
Yeah, I love it. So the other half of Clara Hayley is in education. So I've got a really rich education background.
My mom's a teacher. So
really?
Yeah,
it's addictive. Yeah. It's addictive. Once you start, you cannot give that up.
She's a musician as well, so it's really
interesting. Brilliant! I love her. Love you, mom. That's brilliant.
She's like an award speech, but yeah, I love you, mom. Love you, mom.
Yeah, so I do a lot of work with children, and now I was originally a classroom teacher, and now I work more with teachers. So I train teachers to give them more development. Yeah. So at the moment I work in Brazil and in Mozambique. So the project I work in Mozambique is so cool. I go into the Gorongosa National Park, which is, I mean, talk about be in the middle of nowhere. I'm literally in a national park. It's huge, and it's in an area that was devastated by civil war. 21 years of civil war. That's ended about 16 years ago, but still. There's a rebel base there. It's a very interesting place to be, but the teachers just don't get the training they need. So someone like me comes in and I get to work with them and help them improve their teaching abilities, and then that just has such a big impact because they're raising the nation, aren't they? They've got the youth, and giving them a better education is better for everyone involved. But it's interesting, a lot of the research that I use comes out of UK work that was done in India. So there's a lot of really good information that India is the base study. Yeah, really, really interesting techniques. Yeah, they're really relevant to Brazil as well. There's a lot of situations within the countries that align, and the techniques that have worked in increasing education and access, and really good stuff. It's super relevant to everywhere, but the studies were done in India.
Wow, that's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. I mean, I think once you sort of become a teacher, I think the first step to becoming a teacher is selflessness. I feel, because you are really putting yourself out there. I think teachers tend to have a higher sense of empathy and emotional intelligence and a lot of self-awareness, and so yeah, I think those are really good qualities to have for like an artist also, music per se, musician per se. So yeah, has that really sort of helped you in terms of how you look at the world? Are you a little more empathetic towards things in
Yeah.
general? Do you feel that you can look at people with a more optimistic angle, and you see the human side to people? Has that been the case for you?
Absolutely. And I think, even though, I was born in Australia and I grew up in a very privileged environment, very, very privileged environment. And then I was in the UK again, I didn't have quite the same level of comfort, but still a very, very comfortable life. But through my education work, I'd always been working, not always, but I'd been in classrooms, but I'd always been at least in schools where there was a focus on both sides of that equation. And then, I was in Thailand for a little bit, and then I was here, and there's a lot of places that, privilege doesn't even cover the disparity. It's not privilege, it's just abject poverty, and it just makes you look at things with a different perspective. Come back to perspective, and thinking, okay, this isn't everyone's reality, and okay, this is these people's reality. How do we make the most of what we can do here? Because the solutions are long term, but seeing as we're here right now, what can we do to make a little bit of difference, and leave some legacy for these people to move forward and have more avenues and things. So absolutely, that has helped me as a person, as an artist, it's definitely a pool of inspiration, and putting yourself out there, seeing other people. I think one thing that I got to work with a lot when I worked for the British government too around these issues was a creative economy. So you see people, it's big in Brazil, people that you have nothing, so you got to do something, and you just use your own creativity to build. So that could be music or art or cuisine, food. It could be services and goods, anything. And you think, wow, that's putting yourself out there. That is putting yourself out there, to make sure you got a life for yourself and your family. I learned a lot from those things too.
And does music help in that in a way? Does it give you opportunity to use? Do you get opportunities to use music as a medium as well to educate people? Or
Well, that's really interesting part that you say that, because for me at the moment they're quite separate worlds. I have Clara Hayley, and then I use my Anna and my last surname for my Anna Gojef, which is for my education work.
Your musician career is like a alter ego, like you're.
But my ultimate goal, is for them to be. I'm a musician full time, and I use that to focus and shine light on issues in education as much as possible. So I've been lucky that I've been able to do that, and even through just with the girls that I mentioned that I sang with Vauxhall in the group, and we do a lot through that to assist kids in education and things like that. Pretty much all we do is benefit work. Pretty much everything is benefits, and so everything we do, we find a place that usually has to do with kids and education. So yeah, but hopefully that's exactly my plan, to have my music be a big platform for the work that I do in education, or the work, not even the work that I do, the work that is there to be done, and the opportunity that's there to be of service.
True.
Right.
Okay, so
There's no point.
So yeah, Anna, this has genuinely been so amazing. I mean, it's so interesting talking to you. And I'm not ending the podcast. I'm just saying that, like, genuinely, I feel that it's been so nice.
Likewise.
I'm
Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative. And I think not just appreciative for me, but that you have this platform, and for artists like myself, and I know so many others, that it's a real honor to be on Sounds Good, and to know that we have support from people like your good self. So thank you. And it's been so fun to talk to you guys. I feel like I've just been hanging out.
Right.
So thank you.
I hope that we could do one in the future as well.
Yeah.
Coming. I wouldn't want this to end at this particular thing, because I think you're doing so many interesting things. You led such an interesting life that I think it can't be concise in like a podcast. So I don't know, like I think we spoke for about 1.5 hours or something. So I think this might be like a 2-part episode. Let's see how that goes.
Well,
Yeah. So this has been really amazing, and I'm really looking forward to hear all the 4 albums that you're working on.
thank
I'm
you.
going to, and I hope we really pray that you get all the prosperity. And the reason we do podcasts and we started this is to talk to people, amazing people like you, and understand what you guys do and how you do it, and how just to ensure that people like you continue doing what you're doing so that the world's a better place. And so thank you so much, Anna. It's been a genuine pleasure, and I hope we continue to see you prosper, and we have you soon whenever you have a next time.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
and I hope the situation in Brazil eases so that
Oh,
I just hope everybody takes care of themselves. So anyways, thank you so much, Anna. I think it's almost like 1 a.m. in the night out here.
oh my gosh.
I could we could do this till morning. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you again. Really, I'm truly grateful. I'm really honored and really grateful. So
Thank you
thank
so much.
you. All the very best to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice sleep.
Yes, no?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Also, you should really try the vegetarian Indian food now. And we're going to try yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
In the end, go and follow Anna. Anna, please tell your Instagram ID so that people can follow you.
Sure. It's Anna Clara Hayley all together. So Anna, A-N-A, Clara, C-L-A-R-A, Hayley, H-A-Y. I'm the only one in the world. So
Wow.
Anna Clara Hayley. So have a look. All right.
Absolutely. Guys, please follow Bhaarat podcast every Friday, and we're there on Spotify and other audio streaming platforms as well. This is me, Bharat, and my co-host, Mr. Parth. We'll see you in the next one. And cheers. Take care of yourself, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.